Good evening and welcome to today's session. Subject of management. Only one learner has joined so far, so I think I'll wait for 5 more minutes, see if others join, and then I'll start the session.
Good evening, ma'am. Hello.
Hi, good evening.
Good evening. Good evening.
I'm just waiting for 5 minutes
Others to join in.
yes,
Yeah.
to
Okay.
see if anyone else joins, and then I'll start.
Okay. Right. Okay.
If you have any doubts till that time, you are welcome to ask.
I just wanted to know for the exams, have the what's it called? What do you call it? Those
Centers?
ID. No. The
Okay.
centers, of course, ID cards, then all those kind of things, have they been released already?
No, you will get an email as soon
Okay.
as the admit cards are there is
Okay.
time to fill your centers and everything. You will get emails for everything, so just keep an eye on your email. Maybe keep checking your spam regularly if anything has gone to spam. But
Okay.
you will get all the information on your emails.
Okay. Right. Thank you. So you're a teaching faculty at Roorkee, is it?
No, I'm the teaching assistant. I'm actually a PhD candidate
Ah,
at IIT Roorkee,
okay.
and I'm the teaching assistant for this subject.
So which year are you in your
This is my
PhD?
third year now.
Oh, okay. So you're when are you scheduled to finish?
No, like I don't have anything lined up yet.
Oh,
There's still
what's your
time.
topic? What's your topic?
I'm working on urban policy planning in
Oh,
respect
okay.
to climate change adaptation in Indian
Okay,
cities.
okay. So I'm also doing my PhD at NIT.
NIT? Which NIT?
Yep. Calicut.
Oh,
Yeah. So,
I was in NIT Calicut for some time for a
okay.
project. So
Okay.
I worked with Professor Anjana Bhaginathan there.
Okay. Right. Anjana's still there. Become a doctor now. So she's
Okay.
Doctor Professor Anjana. Yeah. So I'm also working. So we just started my PhD right now.
Okay. Okay. Nice to hear.
Yeah.
So you're taking this course as a part of your pre-PhD courses.
Yeah. That's what. Basically, more because I haven't done my master's, and I think it's the first time that central government has allowed a PhD directly after your degree. But I have a, well, let's say I've been in the profession for the past 20 plus years. So, so I have to make what you call some credits and stuff like that. So this is part of my credits thing. Yeah.
So you're working remotely or
No,
doing
no,
full?
no. I'm working. I'm working. I have my own organization called Good Earth and Space Art. And yeah, I only for on NPTEL I've done one course only. Then I'm doing research methodology. That's also a online course, but by NIT itself.
Okay.
And I'm doing a contact class for HMT, that's Heritage Management and Tourism, because my project basically deals with conservation,
So
reuse.
you
Yeah.
don't take any in-person classes in NIT Calicut.
No. I've got too much in my happening in my office, so no, I don't. But yeah, I often guide certain kids for their thesis and stuff like that.
And who's your supervisor?
Chitra,
Hello.
Chitra.
Okay. Okay. Oh, I think Chitra. Okay. Yes, I've heard about her. I've
Mhm.
referred to several of her works also for my
Oh, okay.
thesis. Yes. So, if you get to see Professor Anjana, say hello to her from
Oh
me.
yes, definitely. I will. I will. I keep seeing her too, so I'll do. I'll do that.
Okay. I think let's start today's session. It is quite some time and no one else has joined so far, but let's start our session.
Right. Okay.
So, welcome to today's session. This is session 8 for week 8, and these are the lectures that you would have covered so far. So, this will include managing urban environment, part 1 and 2. In this, you would have covered different components of urban environment like air, water, urban green infrastructure, or if you want to understand more comprehensively, land and all the natural infrastructure or natural environment related to the land. You would have learned a little bit about management of these different kinds of components of urban environment like air pollution management or water quality management, etc. A little bit about noise pollution management or how you manage vision or aesthetics of the city, etc. Also, a little bit about what are the components of planning involved in it and how you mitigate some of the impacts or some of the negative impacts on the urban environment. Also, you would have studied different components of blue-green infrastructure and the various mandates which are related to the blue-green infrastructure. That would include both our national and state level mandates that we have, and other international mandates which we don't follow as a mandate for our country, but we often refer to as a sort of a guiding document or something, or sort of a reference material which can provide us ideas about the baselines of how blue and green infrastructures should be managed.
Just
Then
a question, this blue and green management actually it comes under MOEF, Environment and Forestry.
actually, blue and green infrastructure, it is as many other urban functions, multiple bodies manage those things. So it's not only MOEF. MOEF is a national level organization. So it is a central body which controls and regulates uh, components related to the environment and climate change and blue infrastructure, etc. But again, there are some bodies at the state level also, and then you have different organizations, like even the urban local body is associated with the management of blue green infrastructure at the local level. And then there are particular parastatal bodies like CPCB is there. Then CPCB is focusing mostly on pollution and air pollution, water pollution, etc. And then there are other bodies like, for example, you would have heard of CAMPA. CAMPA is for afforestation programs. So there is a body associated with, particularly with CAMPA. So it's never just one body which manages all of the blue or green infrastructure or all of the functions related to blue green infrastructure. It's various body handling various different functions and at various different levels. So some like MOEF, you said MOEF is mostly concerned at devising policies at the national level or instructing the state governments how state governments devise their policy. So they are mostly working at either managing the centrally sponsored schemes, so maybe some afforestation schemes or some other kind of national missions. So the central government organizations like the MOEF or the CAMPA, etc., they would work largely on the policy or policy guidelines, how to build and develop the policy guidelines and how to manage the centrally sponsored schemes. Then at the state level, the policy development and all of those things will be done by the bodies at the state. And then when you go down to the grassroots level or the local level implementation of all these programs, so obviously it will be guided by the central and state level organizations, but most of the grassroots level work is either done by special or specific function organizations, like for afforestation there is CAMPA, for pollution control there is CPCB, or there would be the municipal functions are performed by the urban local body, or sometimes even the urban development authority. So this is usually how uh, different functions are organized at different levels in India, and this is true for blue-green infrastructure also, and many other infrastructures as well. I hope
Thank you.
I hope
Yeah.
that was clear.
Yeah.
Uh, then you would have studied traffic and transportation management, part 1 and 2. In this, you would have studied the background and significance of traffic and transport management, why it is related to urban environment, how it helps us manage the urban environment more efficiently, focusing on largely traffic control and facilitation of transportation, making sure it is efficient and equitable to everyone. Uh, Things that you would have covered in this would be different elements of traffic management, the supply and demand side of traffic management, how you deal with supply side and traffic side, supply side and demand side of traffic management. A little bit about public transportation, how public transportation can help you manage uh, traffic. Also, a little bit about non-motorized transport or NMTs, why they are important in promoting more sustainable urban traffic management. And then other different components of traffic control and management that can be applied. Lastly, you would have studied a little bit about the design of urban public spaces. So what is the concept behind the design of urban public spaces, why we need them, what are the basic design themes we should focus on while design and planning criteria we should focus on while designing urban public spaces. You would have studied several examples and case studies of key or important urban public spaces have been uh, which we have seen throughout history. So how urban public places have changed and developed throughout our historical uh, in context of different historical periods, and how people use different kinds of public spaces, what components were associated with them, etc. So this is what has been covered so far this week. So again, we'll go on with solving the questions associated uh, with the lecture that has been covered this week. Again, the questions that have been assigned, these are the questions which I am solving. So these are the ones which were assigned in the previous run, but I took a look, and again these questions are very similar to the ones which have been assigned to you in this run. So again, I won't be telling you the answers, but I'll just tell you the background material or the approach to this question, whatever relevant material or data that you need to solve these questions, and that will help you to understand what needs to be done. So, the first two questions that we are discussing today, that is related to management of traffic, and more related to demand side management of traffic. So, the first question asks, choose the option which is an example of demand side management of traffic, and you have four options. First is making new roads, encouraging shared mode, augmenting the capacity of existing roads, and last is the direction controls. And the third question is demand management in traffic management is used to regulate choices in the destination, time, and mode of transport or route. Is it a true or a false statement? So you can see both these questions are related to demand side management of traffic in cities. So for this, let us see what different traffic management elements are, or what traffic management comprises of. So there are three key elements in traffic management. First is the real-time management of traffic. Second is the planning aspect of traffic management, and third is uh, more of capacity building. It involves some planning, but more of capacity building aspect of traffic management. So real-time traffic management pertains to anything which is recorded or communicated in the real time. So this can include things like traffic information, so information regarding the traffic. So you can offer either up-to-date information of traffic on the road for the users, or you can even provide information before the travel. So maybe information about the public transport that is available, information about peak hours in a particular area, information about uh, maybe what kind of uh, accessibility modes are available, maybe information about which roads are accessible at which time. As you might know, in some places for traffic management, there are certain accessibility controls. So sometimes some roads are rendered one-way roads at one time, and another time they function as two-way thoroughfare, etc. So any information regarding uh, the traffic movement on the road, either before the travel or during the travel, can be termed as or understood as traffic information, and it can be provided to the users for making their travel more efficient, and that comes under real-time management. Then there is traffic control. So traffic control is followed either per intersection or a road section or for an entire road network. So it is divided into either fixed traffic controls or variable traffic controls. So one example of variable traffic control I just mentioned, that some roads or some road networks are either in the peak hour, sometimes they are rendered as one-way thoroughfare, and in sometimes they are in non-peak hours. Those the same roads will be rendered as two-way thoroughfare. Then there are sometimes fixed traffic control uh, measures, like for example, you'll have speed breakers or other different kind of measures which are fixed and permanent in place. So things like this would be in place to control the speed of the traffic. Then you have chicanes, or you have other different kinds of bollards or barriers, or n number of different kind of fixed traffic control infrastructure which is in place, which can either guide the traffic movement, restrict the traffic movement, make it more accessible uh, to maybe pedestrians, maybe to cyclists, etc. So these are some examples of fixed traffic controls, or variable traffic controls, as I mentioned. So traffic control again is something which is a real-time management of traffic. Then there is incident management. So incident management concerns with the detection, handling, and elimination of traffic incidents. So this can include things like accidents, or maybe somewhere if there is a uh, roadblock is there, or somewhere there is congestion. So incidents can be accidents, roadblocks, congestions, etc., or n number of things related to traffic. So uh, incident management is detection of any such kind of incidents, handling those incidents in real time, and then eliminating such traffic incidents in either in the real time or for future events. This is what incident management is. So traffic information, traffic control, and incident management, these are the three things related to the real time management of traffic. uh, then is the demand management, which you might have seen in the lectures also. This is the most important component in terms of planning. So demand management is used to affect choices in the destination, time, and mode of transport, or even the route that the user chooses. It can be done through various measures, which we'll see in the further slides. Then there is planning and capacity building. So it contains two key components. One is the driver support and monitoring, and second is the fleet management. So driver support system or driver support and monitoring consists of driver support systems. It comprises of IT and communication technologies and applications associated with that, which can provide assistance to the driver in providing him information or feedback on how to uh, better navigate traffic situation, better choose pathways or routes for reaching his destination uh, in a more speedy or efficient way. These can even include other informations such as collision prevention information, or support for lane keeping, or the most common you might have seen, which is the navigation systems that most drivers use these days. Then there is fleet management. So fleet management is for management of a fleet of vehicles. So most of the times this is used for the management of public transports like buses, or sometimes even NMTs. So fleet management, it covers the planning, monitoring, and control and assessment of movement and the operations of a vehicle fleet. So if there is a fleet of buses which fare in a particular uh, area, so you'll plan the routes of the buses, you'll plan the frequency, how frequently the buses in the fleet will fare, you'll monitor their movement, and you'll control it accordingly, so that the the buses fare in a way that it is usable and accessible to people in correct times. Maybe in the peak hours, there the frequency of the buses will be more. In the non-peak hours, it will be less. In the routes where there is more demand, the number of the buses faring would be more. In the areas with less demand, the buses that fare in that particular area will be less. And other aspects related to the movement and operation of the vehicle fleet are associated with the fleet management. So these two components are related to planning and capacity building. So these are the various components of traffic management. Of these, we are focusing on demand management. So demand management is used to affect the choices, as we just said. So these choices can be related to either the destination, so where the person is going, the time. So what time does it take for them to reach their destination, which is more efficient uh, for a person, which travel times should be expedited, or travel times of which route should be expedited, where it can be uh, like in which routes the expedition of travel times is not a concern, etc. Then which different types of modes of transport should be available in which particular area, or which different options of routes should be available for one point to another point. All of this management of traffic comes under demand management. So focus on one thing whenever you study demand management. That demand management is related to how you can alter the demand for a particular kind of traffic infrastructure uh, for the user or in a particular area. So whenever we manage demand, we focus on altering the demand of a particular kind of traffic infrastructure. So it can be based on the traffic infrastructure can be based on which destination is someone taking, what time they need to reach in, what mode of transport they are using. So even the different modes of transport are a type of traffic infrastructure that is available, and the route. So route is focusing on the roads or other uh, road related infrastructure that is available. So demand management is related to how we manage the demand of the traffic infrastructure that is available to the end user. So there are several components of uh, how we manage the demand, or uh, co- this managing of demand is often called as traffic demand modeling. So this is the modeling that we do before we can find out recommendations or solutions of how we can alter or change the demand in a particular place. So modeling comes before you can take decisions of how to alter or change demand. So modeling also includes several steps, like first the estimation of trips. So you estimate how many trips would be taken by a particular kind of user in one place, and then you study for different kinds of users. So based on the population, based on the type of population which is living there, and for what kind of uses or for what purpose the trips are being made, and at what time of the day the trips are being made. Based on different factors, you estimate the number of trips and when the trips are happening, etc. Then there is the identification of distribution of the trips. So distribution would be based on the area, in which area how many trips will be there, and on based on time, on in which time how many trips will be happening. Uh, then there would be identification of the modal split. So after you have identified that these many trips in this road or in this area will happen, you can identify what different modes of transportation uh, would be or can be used by uh, the users. So this will be based on kind of vehicles are available to or accessible to different kinds of people, and what are the preferences of the people in that place. Based on certain components, you can identify the modal split. Then, based on all of this information, you can assign the transport means in a particular area to a particular set of people or set of population, and you can identify the distribution of trips for the transport means and how different modes will be assigned to that particular trip. So these are all the components of traffic demand modeling. Then, based on the demand modeling, you know what are the components related to the destination, time, and mode of transport. Then you can move ahead to further identifying how you can affect the choices. So you can do this based either through regulations or through provisions or through support or through promotion or through disincentives. So regulation is something uh, by which you regulate traffic movement in a particular area. So either you can provide easier access or you can restrict access to a particular area. So by providing easier access to either some kind of traffic mode or some kind of during some part of the day. Okay. Uh, so either you can improve the access or you can restrict the access. So imagine that in a particular area you want to make the particular area more accessible to pedestrians. So you'll install infrastructure like bollards, etc., which restrict the movement of vehicles in that particular area. So in that way, you are restricting the access for vehicles, but you are making the place more accessible for pedestrians. So same in the case like I mentioned earlier, when you make a place or a road one-way thoroughfare, so you are restricting the access from one side and allowing access from one side. So in that way again you can regulate access to some particular area or for a particular road in particular area. So in this way, you can regulate the access, and you can then further even provide things like parking, which further improves the access or the component of access. So if you provide parking in a particular place uh, where people want to or uh, can choose the mode of having a vehicle to go there. So if you provide bicycle parking, or if you provide two-wheeler parking, or you provide a four-wheeler parking, someone who wants to travel there with their own vehicle can go there and have and take their vehicle and park. So that place becomes more accessible to them with their own vehicle. But if you want to restrict or limit uh, the number of private vehicles in a particular area, you can maybe not provide parking, or maybe you can provide parking but make the parking charges higher, so that only someone who essentially needs their private vehicle in a particular area will take their vehicle to that area. So in this way you can regulate the number of vehicles also, or how people go there. You can even regulate the choice of mode uh, of the vehicle that people take there. So in these ways, regulation is the way in which you can affect the choices of the people of the mode of transport they use, or when they are going, etc. Then there is provision. So provision is provisioning some kind of additional infrastructure or some kind of additional service or facility which either encourages or discourages some kind of destination choice or time choice or choice of mode of transportation. So these can be things like park and ride facilities, facility of public transport, or easier accessibility to traffic information, etc. So, for example, if easy public transport is available from one place to another, uh, people would many people would choose the public transportation over having their own vehicle to go there. If the public transportation is more accessible to everyone, if it is cheaper than traveling by their own vehicle, then again you can influence the choices of people in choosing that particular mode of transportation. Uh, can anyone tell me what park and ride facilities are? I see Anita, Anjali, Shweta, and Yogesh. Anyone of you knows what park and ride facilities are?
Ma'am, in cities there are like electric bikes which we can use with the help of apps. Like there is a chartered in Bhopal, park and ride cycle, and in Delhi NCR areas also there are some facilities like that. Am I correct, ma'am? In that sense.
Park and ride is not exactly publicly available shared transport, like you said, shared bikes or something. That is a different concept. Park and ride is a separate concept, and it is focus more on the parking term which is associated to it.
Okay.
Does anyone
Is
else
it,
know?
yeah, is it parking at some terminal of any kind of a public transport where you could park and maybe get onto the metro or get onto the train or something like that?
Yes.
You park your personal vehicle at a point and then you use public transport for whatever the rest of the destination length is.
Yes, Anita is correct. Park and ride facilities are associated with providing parking facilities at the place of some kind of public thoroughfare, or where you can get some kind of public transport, where you can go and park your own vehicle, and then from that point you can take a public transport to your destination. Uh, does any one of you know what last mile connectivity is and how park and ride is associated with last mile connectivity?
Last mile connectivity is probably one of the furthest distance from a city hub which has transport or accessibility, whether it's peri-urban or it is one of the satellite towns, that could be. But I don't know the relation between the two. Maybe you park at a point, go there, come back in the same transport to the point where you parked your personal vehicle. Is it that? Not I, no idea.
Yogesh, do you want to take a go? Do you want to answer?
I also think in the same way. Means it's the last farthest point which do is the public transportation has access.
Anyone else wants to answer?
Yeah, so last mile connectivity would mean from door to the nearest public pickup point, say for example a bus stop or a metro station. We are talking about some mode like a in between mode, which is picking you from the door and to the point of boarding
Yes, that
a
is
public
correct.
transport.
Yes. So I hope you can understand now that last mile connectivity is something which is for the last leg of your journey. So many a times public transport you can take from one place to another, but most of the time public transport is available at major hubs in the city, or major traffic hubs. So you can't get it from your home directly, so you have to either take another kind of transport or walk a distance, and then from you reach a major public transport hub, from where you can get the public transport for your destination. So the last leg of your journey from your home to that public transport hub, that the mode that you choose to travel uh, that distance, that is called last mile connectivity. And park and ride facilities facilitate the last mile connectivity by providing you a parking space in which for the last mile connectivity you can use your own vehicle to travel that distance, but after that you can use public transport. For last mile connectivity, there are further different options, like there are now several non-motorized transports like e-rickshaw, etc. Many times, as Yogesh mentioned, that you have shared bike rides, etc. So they also facilitate last mile connectivity. So there are many components which can facilitate last mile connectivity, but not everything is park and ride. Park and ride is particular facility, which is facility which you get to park your own vehicle, but it is associated with last mile connectivity, and other things like non-motorized transport, rickshaws, or even shared bikes, etc. These are other components which again facilitate last mile connectivity. So these are again some examples of provisioning, how provisioning can help you model or manage the demand of some kind of mode of transport, or use of particular kind of transport in a particular area. Okay, so the next component is supporting. So first is provisioning. So provisioning is the government or the authority provisions some kind of infrastructure or service. Then there is another component which is the government or the authority doesn't directly provide some kind of provision, but it can support some other kind of provision which it is not directly providing, but it can maybe provide some kind of information about the traffic management to someone who is providing that facility. So one example is carpooling. So these days you might know there are several carpooling applications or different ways in which you can carpool. So how the public authority supports it is that it maybe provides some traffic management information, or some information regarding the destination, time, and mode choices of people to the private partner who is managing the particular carpooling application or particular carpooling services, and using that the private partner can then provide carpooling services. So this is an example of support in which the authority is not directly providing the service, but it is supporting someone, some private partner who is providing some kind of service for traffic management or traffic demand management in a particular area. Then there are promotion, examples of promotion, like I mentioned, if you want to promote pedestrian friendly area. So if you want to promote an area which is pedestrian friendly, you can have different measures like restrict vehicle movement over there so that pedestrians feel more safe to walk in that area. Maybe plant some trees or shady trees in that particular area. So you're not actually restricting someone to, like, you're not, the previous example, you're still restricting the vehicle movement over there, but examples like providing shady trees in a particular area, so you are not restricting any other vehicle or any other vehicular movement in that particular area, but you are still promoting more pedestrian movement in that area. Maybe make it more accessible to people of different ages, make the steps more accessible to people of old age or someone with disability by providing slopes or ramps for everyone, and many other things like that. So there are several different ways in which you can promote pedestrian friendly accessways. Then you can have bicycle friendly accessways, you can have public transport use, you can promote public transport use. So how you will promote public transport use is by providing maybe uh, there are sometimes there are monthly passes or special passes for students or something. So even though you're not creating new kind of infrastructure or services, you are promoting the use of that particular infrastructure or services by promoting it to some particular population groups. As you know, many times students do not have access to their own private vehicle, so you can use or you can promote the use of public transport more to the student by maybe providing student passes which are discounted, or maybe providing monthly passes which are further discounted, so someone who commutes every day can take the monthly pass at a lower price than the regular price of the public transport. And in this way you can promote certain kinds of infrastructures or mode decisions or mode of transport to certain kinds of population. So this is the promotion aspect of traffic demand management. Then there are disincentives. So incentive is something which you are giving so that more of that thing is being done by the user. Disincentive is something which you introduce in order to lessen uh, that activity from the user. So for example, if some area has a lot of traffic in peak hours, you can introduce peak hour tolls. So there won't be tolls in other hours where there is not much traffic, but if during the peak hours you will collect tolls from vehicles passing in that particular area. You can collect road use charges, so often this is collected from four wheelers or private vehicles, or other kind of maybe sometimes road use charges are for vehicles traveling from one state to another. So in that way you can disincentivize vehicle movement from one area to another, or disincentivize the use of particular kind of transport. Then there are fines and penalties. So you can, these are often used to disincentivize unsafe traffic practices. So maybe using polluting vehicles, maybe not following the traffic rules, etc. For that you can have fines and penalties. So again, this is there are some kind of examples of disincentives which you can use to control the demand management. Okay, so this is everything related to demand management. Then we also have supply side management of traffic. Again, remember that demand management is something which is related to how you can alter the demand of some kind of traffic infrastructure or some kind of traffic services, either public uh, transport service or service of park and ride facility, or some parking services, or some kind of infrastructure like roads, bridges, etc. So this is related to altering the demand for usage of these kinds of infrastructure and services. Supply is related to managing the supply of transport infrastructure and services which are available to users. So when you manage demand side, you manage that how the user choice will be affected. And when you manage supply side, you will what you will manage is what kind of more transport infrastructure and service you can provide to the user, either more or less. So this will include things like if there is more demand, you can make new roads, you can augment the capacity of existing roads, maybe increase the number of lanes, widen the roads, etc. You can install direction controls. Then you can make the public transports more efficient. So maybe it can carry more people at a time. It can uh, make more trips. It can be more frequent or more easily accessible, etc. And then making a variety of transport modes available to people. So again, that is supply side management. So I hope it is clear what is the difference between demand and supply side. Coming back to the question, let's see question 1 again. So you have to choose in this question which is the demand side. So making of new roads, is it a supply or demand side? Can anyone guess?
Supply.
Yes. Encouraging shared mode.
Demand.
Yes. Augmenting the capacity of existing roads.
Rest two, I think, are supply.
Yes. Again, the rest two are supply side, because making new roads, again, you are supplying more roads or more infrastructure. Augmenting the capacity of existing road, again, you are increasing the capacity of existing infrastructure, again, making supplying more infrastructure per user. Then direction control, again, making the supply more efficient to the user. Encouraging shared mode is affecting the choice of the user. It's not affecting what uh, infrastructure is available to the user, but it is affecting the choice the user makes. So always when we are discussing demand, focus on what choice the user have, how you are altering the user's choice. And whenever we are talking of supply, focus on what kind of infrastructure or services you can supply to the user. Okay, I hope it is clear what is the difference between demand and supply side traffic management techniques. We'll move on to the next question. So the next question for today is, the major goal of IUCN is protection of nature. What does IUCN stand for? So this question is asking you the full form for IUCN. I'll give you a little background of IUCN. So IUCN was created in 1948, and it is right now the world's largest and most diverse environmental network. It is organization which is union of experts and influential government organization, and also non-government organization and indigenous peoples organizations from various countries. So all of these organizations have some kind of expertise on environment and protection of nature. So for example, it can include experts focusing who are practitioners in the field of environmental protection, or maybe government organization who work on the field of environmental protection, or non-government organization who work on the same field, and even indigenous people organization. So as you might know, a lot of the time indigenous people hold a lot of knowledge, or which has passed on to them through generations. So a lot of the time they hold more knowledge about the local or indigenous natural resources than some experts working in that area. So again, indigenous people organization is also important component of IUCN. So the purpose of IUCN is to advance sustainable development and create a just world that values and conserves nature. So for sustainable development and creating a just world means making it more equitable, more fair, so that different kinds of population can get the benefits of natural resources, and they are protected also in a way that it is available for use. Not not only it is available for use to humans, but even to other inhabitants of the nature. So the different flora and fauna. So you also might have heard about the IUCN in the Green Infrastructure Guide for Water Management, which you would have studied in the section where you studied the national and international mandates related to green infrastructure management. So IUCN was a partner in the development of green infrastructure management guide. So you would have heard the name there even. Again, I have also provided the link to IUCN's website. Even after this, if you have further doubts about what IUCN stands for and what IUCN does, you can visit the website, and you can check about the organization. I think that is enough information uh, to help you get to what is the full. Okay, moving on to the next question. So next question is, when was the National Action Plan for Climate Change, or NAPCC, launched in India? So you are given options of 4 years. So the The NMPCC, it was released by the Prime Minister with the Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change as its nodal body. What it does is it's basically a national strategy that aims to enable the country to adapt to climate change and enhance the ecological sustainability of India's development. There are various missions associated with the NMPCC which are listed here, and this might give you a little idea that NPCC came after another policy, which was the National Environmental Policy or NEP, which came out in 2006. So NEP was basically a forerunner of this action plan, or the action plan which involves these 8 national missions. So NAPCC came after the National Environmental Policy. So the different missions which form this national action plan include the National Solar Mission, the National Mission for Enhanced Energy Efficiency, the National Mission for Sustainable Habitat, National Water Mission, National Mission for Sustaining the Himalayan Ecosystem, the National Mission for Green India, National Mission for Sustainable Agriculture, and the National Mission on Strategic Knowledge for Climate Change. So this is the framework which exists now in India for climate change adaptation and ecological sustainability. So before this, the National Environmental Policy was there, which was introduced in 2006. After that, the NPCC was introduced. So I think this can guide you in when the NPCC might have been introduced. Again, if you still have doubts about the timeline, I have provided this link of PIB where the press release for introduction of the NPCC has been put up. So if you still have doubts, you can go to the press release and you can check the dates when the NPCC was introduced. There is also information about the different national action plans and the different missions associated. So if you still want to further cross-verify, visit this link and you can cross-verify. We'll move on to the next question. So next question is, in context of blue-green infrastructure design, what does the word blue and green imply? We have different options of what blue means and what green. So while there is no particular rigid definition for what is blue infrastructure or what is green infrastructure or what is blue-green infrastructure, most of the terminologies which you will find in either practice or in literature, it can be understood as blue and green infrastructure comes under the umbrella of nature-based solutions, and most of the time these nature-based solutions have a focus on either all 3 of these things or one of the 3 things. So what these 3 things are: one, climate change or climate change adaptation, then health aspects, and then promotion of urban resilience. So almost always urban blue-green infrastructure or some component of blue-green infrastructure has a component of nature-based solution attached to it, and often it focuses on either climate change or health or urban resilience or any combination of the 3 of them. So you can see here it can focus on either biodiversity and ecosystem services, climate resilience, focus on urban health or health of people, maybe food provision or food security, maybe for recreation activities, cultural values, etc. For better air quality, for reduction of heat stress, for reduction of urban heat islands, etc. For management of energy consumption by management of urban heat stress, and again for stormwater management also. So often blue-green infrastructures are associated with the direct benefits they provide, and then because they are based solutions with a plethora of indirect ecosystem functions also which they provide. So they are often associated with different co-benefits also which come with them. So there are two major components of blue-green infrastructure. First is the natural components, or as we saw, is it will often be associated with some kind of nature-based solution, and then there would be some man-made component often associated with blue-green infrastructure. So the natural components can include things like parks, green belts, squares, or green squares, natural forests or woodlands, then maybe wetlands or water bodies, even lawns or green buffers, maybe water retention and infiltration elements, maybe bioretention gardens, biospheres, shrubberies, etc. So these are some things or some of the natural components of blue-green infrastructure. Then there are man-made components like public conveniences or public green or blue spaces, maybe fountains, uh, walking, jogging or cycling tracks along the blue or green infrastructure, maybe skywalks to access particular woodland or natural forest, etc. Gyms or children parks associated with the blue-green infrastructure, some kind of statues or memorials for the cultural or aesthetic value of the blue-green infrastructure. Similarly, sitting spaces or street furniture or open air theatres, again focusing on the cultural and socio-cultural values and aspects associated with the blue-green. So these are what are the components associated with the blue-green. So I hope that this helps you answer the question. I think you can easily identify which of the components pertain to the blue and which of the components pertain to the green or urban green spaces in the blue. Coming on to the next question. Next question is, which of the following policies and or acts are responsible for conserving and maintaining blue-green spaces in India? And you are given five options. The National Water Policy, the Water Prevention and Control of Pollution Act, National Environmental Policy, Environmental Protection Act, and Forest Conservation Act. So one thing you need to pay attention here that we don't have any particular policy specially crafted for managing of blue-green spaces or conserving maintaining blue-green spaces in India. We already have a framework of several other policies like some mentioned in this list which enable the conservation and maintenance of several uh, blue components of blue green infrastructure and green components of blue green infrastructure in India. So we already have a policy framework. So we don't have a specially targeting policy for blue green infrastructure or blue green spaces, but several of these policies form the framework for conserving and maintenance of blue green spaces in India. So I'll tell you what each of these policy pertains to, or what which part of this policy can focus on blue or green spaces, and using that I think should try to identify if that particular policy pertains to conserving and maintaining blue green spaces in India or not. So first is the National Water Policy. So the National Water Policy focuses on governing the planning and development of water resources and uh, their optimum utilization. So you can see here that it directly doesn't control the blue spaces, but it controls the planning and development of water resources. So if some kind of natural water resources form the blue infrastructure in a city or blue green infrastructure in the city, yes, this policy would pertain to to management of blue green spaces in that particular area. Then we have the Water Prevention and Control of Pollution Act. So what this act does is that it ensures that the nation's water sources are protected, used, developed, conserved, managed and controlled to provide equitable access to water to meet human needs sustainably and protect aquatic ecosystems, reduce water pollution and meet the international obligations that we have associated with prevention and control of pollution of water. So you can see here again, this doesn't directly pertain to blue-green infrastructure, but it controls one aspect of conserving and maintaining blue-green infrastructure, which is controlling the pollution or preventing the pollution of water resources. Similarly, we have the National Environmental Policy. It focuses on conservation of critical environmental resources. It focuses on intergenerational equity, so providing livelihood security for the poor and intergenerational and facilitating intergenerational equity. Then focuses on integration of environmental concerns in economic and social development. Then it also focuses on efficiency in environmental resource use. Also, it focuses on environmental governance, so it focuses on applying the different principles of good governance in management of environmental resources also. Then it focuses on enhancement of resources for environmental conservation. Again, I think it's easy for you to identify whether this pertains to management of blue green spaces or not. Then we have the Environment Protection Act. So what this act does is it aims to improve and protect the human environment. Most importantly, to prevent hazards from happening and causing damage to ecology or the ecosystem. So again, it is easy for you to identify if this pertains to management of blue green infrastructure or not. Last is the Forest Conservation Act. So this act particularly focuses on conservation of forests or woodlands, and it provides regulations for use and conservation of forest and forest resources. So again, very clearly you can identify that it is related to the conservation of forest and forest resources. So again, it pertains to conservation and management of green infrastructure in cities. So if there are urban forests or urban woodlands, this act will apply to that particular area. So I hope you get a general idea that which of these acts are responsible for conserving and maintaining green spaces and which are not. Okay, moving on to the next question. This is the last question for today. So this question asks that consider the following trees and select the best suitable option for plantation along the state highways and national highways in India as per Urban Greening Guidelines 2014 published by TCPO Government of India. And you have 6 options: Maduka latifolia, Millingtonia hortensis, Azadirachta indica, Acacia modesta, Dalbergia siso, and Ficus glomerata. So you have options of 6 trees or 6 plants you've been given, and you have to choose among them which are the trees or plants which are suitable for plantation along the state highways and national highways according to the urban greening guidelines. So there are 2 ways in which you can go about solving this question. First is you can refer to the urban greening guidelines. So in the greening guidelines, they have a list of trees, I think in the annexures, which you can refer to for which trees can be used for plantation, or maybe in some section there might be information about which particular trees the greening guidelines recommends for plantation along the state highways and national highways. For that, I have linked the urban greening guidelines here. So if you want to go that route, you can access the guidelines here and you can find out which are the ones that have been recommended by the DCPO in the guidelines. Another way which you can solve this question is by considering what considerations should be taken while selecting the trees to be planted on the highways, and then according to those considerations, see if the options which are given here, those options fit in those considerations or not. So this is relevant not only because you can check it not only for these options which are listed here, but you can check it for n number of trees. So any tree or any kind of plantation you want to check if that is suitable for plantation on the state highway or national highway, if they are suitable or not. If you want to check, you can just see the guidelines for planting the trees, or you can see what considerations the urban greening guideline mentions, and then you can check the property of the particular tree, and you can match if these considerations match with the properties of the tree or not. So according to that, if this tree is suitable for plantation on the highways or not. So these are the considerations which are mentioned in the urban greening guidelines. So according to the guidelines, the species should have a long life. The species must grow fast, and it should be wind resistant. It should be deep rooted. Its roots shouldn't be shallow. Then it should either be evergreen or nearly evergreen kind of tree. And the last thing is that the minimum spacing between the trees must be 10 to 12 meters. So this you won't get directly from, like, this is not related to the property of the tree, but one thing which you can keep in mind is what the canopy of the tree is like. So depending on the canopy, can those trees be planted 10 to 12 meter apart or not, you can consider. So based on these criteria, you can check for each kind of tree if those trees fit in these criteria or not, and according to that you can select which are the correct options or which are the suitable trees for plantation on the state highways or not. So I have given you some links. So for example, this is the Madhuka latifolia, or the more common name is Mahua. So I have given you two links here. So for example, if you go through to this link, it will take you to the India Biodiversity portal, and you can see you can get information about the tree here. So you can even get information of what the tree is locally called. So you can even get to see the tree if it is planted near you, or you can get local knowledge or local information about the tree or how suitable the tree is for a particular area. Then you can see from this description, you can see the height of the tree, or uh, description of what kind of foliage it is, if it is a evergreen tree or it is nearly evergreen, it's deciduous kind of a tree, maybe information about what the canopy of the tree is like. So you can go to these links. So there is another link. This link is for flowers of India. So again, this again provides you information about the tree, what kind of tree it is like, if it is a evergreen tree or a deciduous tree, etc. So for each kind of tree, I have provided some links. You can further refer to additional material also if you don't find the relevant information in those two links. But I have tried to provide one link for each kind of tree. So the next tree which is mentioned in the list is the Millingtonia hortensis, which is the Indian cork tree. So I provided a link for that also. Then Azadirachta indica, which is neem. There is a link for neem. Acacia modesta. So there is a link for that also. Then Dalbagia Siso, or you might have heard of it as Shisham or Indian Rosewood. So there's a link for that. Or Ficus glomerata, or the Indian fig tree. So these are some of the links which I have provided. So you can go either way. You can either go directly to the urban greening guidelines and you can see the list of their recommendations. You can see if these trees are in the list of their recommendations or not. Or again, you can go this route, that you have these guidelines of what you need to consider for suitability, and you can check each tree if the particular tree is suitable or not. So according to that, you can solve this question. I hope that was clear. So these are all the questions for today. Thank you a lot for attending today's session. Now I'll be taking any additional questions. If you have any additional questions, please go ahead and ask. You can either unmute yourself and ask your question, or you can simply type your question in the chat box and I'll get to your question. Yogesh, I think I'm seeing you here for the first time today.
Actually, I'm working, ma'am, so it's hardly I get time on Tuesdays
There is no
evening.
issue. There is no issue. I'm just acknowledging that I think
Yeah.
you are here for the first time. Are you aware that all of our sessions are recorded and uploaded?
No, ma'am.
Okay. So all of these sessions, we have live sessions every week, every Tuesday from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. We have live sessions, and all of our sessions are recorded and then they are uploaded to a YouTube channel. And where you got this link to attend this, if you go to the page where you find your weekly lectures, at the end of the page you will see a link for weekly live sessions also. So if you go to that link, you can see there are links for previous week's recorded sessions also. So if you missed previous weeks and if you still want to go and see what has been covered, and if you still have any doubts from the previous week, you can access those sessions also.
Yeah, there is a PMRF
Yes.
Excel file.
Yes. So you can access those links for previous videos from that also. Also, we have a shared folder. In that, it is linked to a drive folder. In that folder, I upload all of the PPTs which we discuss here. So you can even access the shared PPTs in that. So PPTs
Yeah.
from all previous sessions are in that. So if you have any doubts, you can refer to that material also. There is some additional material also in that folder. You can access that as well.
Yeah, ma'am, I got that folder.
Okay. Anjali, Shweta, and Anita, you three of you are recurring participants. I that. So if you have any doubts, please ask. All of you are registered for the exam.
Yes, Nikita. I mean, I have registered. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, I have also registered.
Yes, all of you are registered. That's very good. Just keep an eye on your emails. You will get all of the information regarding your exam and selection of your centers and your admit cards on your email. So just keep an eye on your emails on all the information regarding your upcoming exams. Meanwhile, if you have any doubts for this session or previous session even, feel free to ask. If you don't have any doubts now, feel free to ask in the next session also. We have sessions every week, 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. Tuesday 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. You are very welcome to ask anything you want to ask from the material that we have covered so far.
Right. Nikita, my doubt is not directly related to today's session as such, but I wanted to understand the process of policy making, in the sense like we just looked at urban blues and greens, and we also discussed the different acts which indirectly support a certain concept. So, what where my doubt is coming from is at city level, if it is being attempted to kind of maybe make some guidelines or some, does it come under the purview of policy making, and is it possible at city level? Just to kind of understand broadly what is the process.
Okay. So one thing you need to understand, that anything which is happening at the city level, it doesn't happen independent of national or state policies. It is always in alignment with what our national policies are and what our state policies are. Again, when we see at the policies at the national or the state level, you have to uh, keep in mind that these policies at the national and state level, these do not guide you specifically what to do at the local level, but these are more general guidelines, or they can guide you as to uh, what principles to follow, or what kind of end goal you want to achieve. So if your end goal is sustainability, if you want to have climate change adaptation, these policies, most of the time the policies at the national level and the state level, they guide you towards what the end goal you should focus on achieving. What you have to do at the ground level or at the local level, those things are often devised by the local government or the special purpose organizations which are focused on carrying some activities at the local level. For example, we saw here, like you can see the Forest Conservation Act is there. So this again pertains to conservation of urban forests or urban woodland which is present in a particular area. But the conservation would often be in tandem with, like, this is the act which guides that conservation of forest and forest resources should be there, but it doesn't directly guide that how the local government should carry out the conservation. Those are often guided by either I'm forgetting the name of the authority. So there is an authority which works on forest conservation, and then that authority, in uh, cooperation with the local government, will take out action of what to do in the particular city or for the conservation of a particular forest. National forests or large forest area are often, they often come under the purview of the central government. So local government cannot take action regarding those forests. So often some things vary, but if there are a small woodland area or urban forest, many a times even the urban development authority or the urban local body again can influence how the regulations regarding the conservation of the forest and forest resources happen in the city or at the local level. So again, all of these policies at the national, state, and the local level, they work in tandem. So they, none of those are independent, and even the action which is taking place at the local level, it should be coordinated with the policies that we follow or that guide our action for that particular infrastructure. Is that clear?
Yes,
Yes,
thank
thank
you.
you.
Thank you
Thank you
so
so
much.
much. So if you want to understand, if you want to focus on how at the local level policy, what policies exist, or how you devise guidelines for one kind of infrastructure, you can see for that kind of infrastructure what policies or policy documents are there at the national level, uh, which state you are talking about. So if you're talking about a particular city, in which state that city is, what particular functions that state follows, what particular often there are particular acts at the state level also. So if the state has particular acts, what are those acts, what the state is following, and then again focusing on the city, you can see what acts or regulations your city is following. You can always see which are the bodies or which are the authorities which are taking care of providing that particular function associated with that particular infrastructure, and then you can check that which acts are being followed and which bodies, either national level organizations or state level organizations or parastatal bodies or other local bodies are associated with. Many a times, even non-governmental organization also play a huge part in delivering uh, some kind of infrastructure management function. But again, all of these are regulated based on national and state level acts or legislation or mandates which exist. Okay, I hope that is clear. Anyone else has any other questions?
Hello,
Yes.
ma'am. Can you recommend few books about public policy, governance, urban, which will create interest in this sector, which will be
See, I don't know of any books which can which are enough for uh, covering all of the policy and everything related to urban sector. What I'll recommend is uh, we if you go through the lectures, there are a lot of policies and other supplemental documents and policy documents and other things, other guidelines which we have discussed. So if you want to have some other reference material, maybe you refer to the reference material that I talked about during the sessions.
okay.
So as you might know that most of the policies and regulations, those are not static in nature, they keep changing with time. There are always amendments, there are always new guidelines or new policies which are coming. So instead of sticking to a book which tells you whatever there is, I think it is more interesting to follow the particular policy documents and other guiding documents which are there.
Okay, ma'am.
Okay, you're most welcome, Anjali. Are there any other doubts or should we close the session for today? We still have half an hour left, so I was just waiting if any more doubts come. If you don't have any doubts, I think we can close the session for today. Okay, I think we can close the session for today. Thank you all for attending, and we'll meet again in the next session next Tuesday, 6 p.m. to 8. Thank you.